Hi, I'm Karen. I'm the owner and founder of the mill, and I'm also, I could call myself a semi-expert at crocheting only because I've been doing it since I was in high school. So I've got a lot of experience with crochet. It's an easy thing to learn and it only takes one hook, which is awesome. You don't have to use two needles. So for those of you that are intimidated or want to learn something different than knitting, crochet is a great option and it has lots of flexibility involved in it. I am going to start today just kind of showing you a little bit about what crochet is. I think a really interesting little tidbit is that the stitches are going to look very different. This is knitted, a knitted square using a very chunky yarn, and this is a woven square, and this is a crocheted square. So crochet is going to be a more dense fabric and it's very bubbly. So it gives a lot of texture to it. And the other thing is your tool. So crochet hooks come in lots of different sizes, and this one is a G. I chose it. It's a pretty standard one. You can use a lot of weights of yarn with this. I'm going to use this yarn. It's our Alpine 3-ply DK, and it's a nice smooth yarn, and I think you'll be able to see the stitches really well. I've made a skein into a cake, just kind of got it rolled into a ball so that we can use it easily. And this one's a pretty variegated yarn, which is really fun. It has all sorts of light and dark shades. But let's get started. So before we get started, I wanted to show you another example of crochet. This is single crochet, and you can see the stitches are very close together. It makes a very solid piece of fabric, but this is done with a lightweight yarn, so it's a very light shawl, and this is sold as a kit, and you can see it has a lot of different stitches in it. So we're going to start with a very simple stitch today. We're going to learn how to do this single crochet. So to start with, we have our yarn, and we are going to make a slip knot. So a slip knot is just made by putting the yarn into a loop, putting your two fingers through, crossing it over, and then taking the one strand that lies under and pulling it through. That's just a slip knot that gets your chain started. The chain is the most important stitch you need to learn when you first start to crochet. It's used all the way through projects. Chain is your foundation. That's what starts your project. It gives you the width of your project, and it also will give you the height. So you can increase your height by chaining. So a chain is very simple. I'm going to hold on to the tail, and we're going to take the hook and we're going to put it under the strand and hook it on, go through the loop, and then do that again. Whoops, we made a mistake, so let's try that again. The yarn split. So we're going to go under the yarn, through the loop, under the yarn, and through the loop, under the yarn, through the loop. I'm going to do 10 of these. And I'm holding a little bit of tension on the bottom of that chain. It's just a little easier to see what you're doing if you hold it a little bit of tension. Let's count. Now the next thing we need to learn how to do is count our stitches. So let's just see how many stitches we have here. We are not going to count the loop that the hook is in, that's your working loop, and we're not going to count the slip stitch, which is down here. So we are going to count the top part of each loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 stitches. I want to make 2 more. So now we have a loop of 10 chains. That is how you do the chain stitch. And as you can see all the loops. You just count those. Counting is important to make sure you keep your pattern correct. And now we're going to make one chain. That's our turning chain. And then we're just going to turn our project over. It's a little odd when all you have is a chain. But now we are going to do a set of stitches called single crochet. Single crochet is the first stitch you need to learn when you're doing crochet. It's your very first one. So basically it's taking the hook, pushing it through the top loop of the yarn, hooking it on, pulling it through, and then hooking it on and pulling it through the two. So we're going to put it through the top loop of that stitch, hook it on, and bring that loop through. Now we have 2 loops on the hook, and we're going to take that thread and go through those 2 loops. Again, push your hook through the loop, hook it onto the yarn and pull it through so you have 2 stitches. And now we're going to go through those 2 stitches. We're going to do this all the way across. Push your hook through the loop and then through those top 2 stitches. All the way across. The nice thing about crochet is that, like I said before, you have only one needle. For some people, that is a lot easier to use than having the 2 needles that are required in knitting. And this single crochet stitch is very easy to do. We're going to do one more row when we get to the end, which is right here. Okay, so that's your first row of single crochet. Now I'm going to make another chain. That's our turning chain, and then we're going to turn it over. And we're going to go across the top again. So it's the same thing. We're just going to do the single crochet again. We're going to go through the top 2 loops of the single crochet, hook onto our yarn, go under, hook onto our yarn, go through the 2. Push it under the 2 loops, hook on the yarn, come through, hook on the yarn again, come through the 2 loops. Everybody learns their own way of handling their yarn to be able to hook the yarn with your hook and give it a little bit of tension. So however you find works for you is just fine. We're all different. So again, we're just working our way across, and you can see that gives a nice stitch. It's very consistent. The single crochet is a stitch basic stitch for everything. Okay, so there we have 2 rows of single crochet. Now you'll use chains like we did to start this off to turn. You may also use a chain in the middle of a project to add more holes. So if we were going to chain in a pattern, it would say chain 3. You would just chain 3 and then turn it. You always turn it when you're starting the next row. And if we were going to chain 3 and do a single crochet, it would look like this. Chain 3, and then we're going to go into that first single crochet, go through the 2 loops, and what you created is a little hole. So that's it for today. We learned how to chain, and we also learned how to do single crochet. We'll learn more on the next visit to crochet with the makers at Meadow Wool. Thank you.